Hey, I'm continuing my George Romero movie reviews today with the Dead series. Now I'm going to be reviewing George A. Romero's Day of the Dead. Now, Day of the Dead came out in 1980. 1980. Let's see, I can't remember. 1985. This one was directed by George Romero. Obviously, again, kind of follows right off where um, Dawn of the Dead left off. Um, you think maybe it's got to be maybe a year later or something. Um, now, this movie stars Laurie Cardile as a character named Sarah. It's also got Terry Alexander in it. His name is John in the movie. You got Joe Pilato, who plays the character of Rhodes, and you got Richard Liberty, who plays Dr. Logan. They call him Dr. Frankenstein in this movie. And then you got Sherman Howard, who plays Bub. And you got some other characters too. You got Gary Howard that plays this character named Steele. Yeah, I really enjoy this movie. It's definitely a classic. Like I said in Dawn of the Dead, it's almost a tie between that movie and this one. I'd say Dawn of the Dead takes it by a little bit just because it's a little funner. It's got a little bit more to it. It's like more fleshed out. No pun intended. So yeah, Tom Savini comes back and does the special effects again for this movie. And they're like, you can tell it's 10 years later after they done Dawn of the Dead because the effects are just, crazy good. He's even called this movie like his masterpiece as far as doing his effects, which I'd have to agree. The first time I saw this movie, I was kind of blown away by some of them. Like there's a scene where there's a zombie laying on a table, and like all you can is his face has been like removed, and he's just like you can see the bone underneath, and he's just laying there, and he's like still moving. It's kind of cool. I've done a lot of like research on these movies, as far as like the interviews and stuff that they've came out with over the years on like how they did a lot of those effects and stuff. That there's a guy sitting at a table with his head like underneath the table, and it's just interesting how they do all them things. Tom Savini is a genius when it comes to doing special effects. And then he's got his assistant in there, Tasso Stravakis, I think is his name. Now he's interesting because he plays a zombie in this movie too, and he helps Tom Savini with all his special effects. Now, when I did my Friday the 13th review, I guess I could have mentioned that he actually plays Mrs. Voorhees all the way up until you see her at the end. He plays like when you see the body of the killer, it's actually his friend Tasso. So I found that kind of interesting. But he does a lot of movies with him. It said it seems like the dates are all kind of odd. It's like every 10 years he come out with a new zombie movie. Romero did. Yeah, this story basically it starts off with Laurie Cardile's character Terry Alexander as John, and the other guy, what's his name? Let's see, Fisher Miller. I can't find his name on here for some reason, but it's the guy that runs like the radio is trying to get a hold of people. It starts off with them in a helicopter at the beginning of the movie, and they're going through what is basically Central Florida is what it is, and they land. They're trying to see if there's anybody else out there that's still alive, because you got to think it's been a couple years, or at least a year or two, since Dawn of the Dead, and this, these zombies are wiping out the whole planet, so it's spread like crazy over the year or so, and they're just trying to find out whether there's anybody else still alive or not, because they haven't heard from anybody. Um, you got you basically got two groups of people in this movie. You got scientists and you got people that are in the army. And yeah, like I said, they start off the movie. They're in a helicopter. They're in Central Florida. They touch down, and you got one of the guy. The character's name is Miguel, which would be Laurie Cardill's Sarah's like boyfriend in this movie. And he gets on like a bullhorn and he's like, hello, and he's trying to call and see if anybody's there, and all these zombies start coming out of the woodwork, and it's kind of crazy because you can see all the special effects and stuff for the zombies, and they just look fucking great in this movie. Yeah, so basically you got the army and you got these scientists, and they're all living underground in this cave, and they're trying to like coexist with each other. I mean, through like a horrible situation, and like the head of this the army group is this guy named Rhodes, played by Joe Pilato, and he's just really a fucking dick in this movie. Probably one of the best villains as far as these movies go. You just, by the end of the movie, you just want to punch him in the fucking head. Just because he's such a dick. But yeah, so you got these people down there, the scientists are trying to figure out like what's going on, like what's caused on all this, and you got the Dr. Frankenstein, who's like, you find out later in the movie that he's just fucking whacked out of his mind. I don't know if it, like if he was like this before all this shit went down, or like or if it's just the fact that the world's ending and like he's just going nuts. But find out that he's really going crazy. They find like a tape recording of him or whatever, and he's like talking to his mom and shit. I don't know what the hell he was doing, but he's definitely going nuts. And then you got this this zombie played by Howard Sherman, whose name is Bub. That's what Dr. Frankenstein names him, and he is basically like his star zombie. He's teaching him all kinds of shit, how to shave, how to use a phone, stuff like that. Trying to like get him socialized, trying to train these zombies so that maybe they can control them one day, and like they can all coexist, and I find Howard Sherman did a really good performance as Bub. Played a really good zombie. Probably my second favorite zombie, other than the character of forget his name already, but he played in Dawn of the Dead, the helicopter pilot guy, Flyboy. He did the best zombie in my opinion. But Howard Sherman does a great job. I mean, there's really not much to say. Everybody kind of already has seen these movies. But they're trying to coexist, the army and the scientists. They can't get along. The army wants them to hurry up and finish their research and figure this shit out, and really there's nothing to figure out. I mean, Sarah ends up going into Terry Alexander and this other guy's little place that they've had outside of the complex. They're in the cave with these other people, but they're outside of, like, there's a complex in there where the army and the scientists are living, and Terry Alexander and this other character live outside of that. And she goes in there and talks to him, and he basically gives a speech about, like, what you're doing is a waste of time. We need to just pack our shit, go to some tropical island somewhere, get drunk and make some babies and start over. He just thinks that been messing around with God's business, and it ain't our business to be figuring those things out. That's up to God, you know. You know, yeah, and he kind of convinces her, I think, a little bit right there. Her character like reaches some kind of an arc right there, I think, and she continues on with her work, but you know, I mean, this is towards the end of the movie. It's coming to a close. I just thought it was a good speech that he gave about, you know, it's not really, you know, our business to be trying to figure this stuff out. It's ultimately up to God, whatever He wants to happen, and so basically, what happens is they they all end up basically fighting. They can't get, you know, they can't reach an agreement with anything. They find out that the doctor Frankenstein has been like taking all these dead military people and feeding them to the zombies and keeping them like docile and everything or whatever you want to say. And yeah, I mean, Rhodes finds out about this and flips shit and kills the doctor. And then after that, it's pretty much on. The character of Miguel, um, he ends up getting bit at the end, and Lori Cardille is a great scene where she takes a fucking machete and jams it like right into his arm, and she's trying to amputate the area and trying to stop the infection so he doesn't turn into a zombie. And then, you know, long story short, he ends up getting up off the bed and going, because outside the complex they're all fenced. They're like fenced in. They got a helicopter and shit, and you know, outside the fenced in area is thousands of zombies, or at least hundreds of them. Um, and he basically gets up off because I think he already knows he's gonna die. The army people pissed him off, and he's just ready to die. And he goes and lets all the zombies out of the, you know, lets them in the gate, puts himself on the because it's like a ramp that they got to go on and to get inside where they're at. And you know, all the zombies start eating him and shit, and he lets them all inside the complex. And he, you know, the zombies get in there, they fucking start eating everybody. Love the Rhodes kill at the end. I mean, he really gets it. At the end, the zombies get him after Bub. Bub's like chasing him down with a gun because he walks in on the doctor and sees that he's been killed, and that really pisses him off. Well, before he got killed, the doctor taught Bub how to use a gun. So he finds the doctor that's dead, picks up the gun, and basically goes on the hunt. And he finds Rhodes' character at the end of the movie and shoots him. And as he kind of shoots him, this door opens, and then that's where all the zombies are at. They grab a hold of him, and they throw him on the ground. And I ain't kidding you, man. If you ain't never seen this movie, they literally rip him in fucking half. And it is like one of the grossest things I've probably ever seen. There's a funny story about that. I don't know if you've ever seen an interview with Tom Savini and Joe Pilato on that scene, but like apparently the guts that they were using for everybody in the movie, they put them in the fridge, and they took off to go shoot some scenes down in Florida. Well, while they did that, somebody unplugged the fridge accidentally, and the guts like spoiled, and they smelled like just horrible, I guess. And they had to use those guts for that scene where he gets ripped in half at the end. And yeah, you can see, like, you know, and they're like plugging up his nose and shit, and everybody's like ready to puke. And I guess it was pretty nasty, but seeing some interviews on that was pretty funny. Yeah, that's pretty much it. The three other characters, Lori Cardille, Terry Alexander, so John Cera, and this other guy, they end up getting away in a helicopter, and then it shows them on an island at the end. And basically they got away, and they're going to start over, I think. And that's just how the movie ends. And yeah, other than that, it's a great movie. Day of the Dead. If you have never seen it before, definitely check it out. But I'm going to tell you, you need to Make sure that you're not queasy because the effects in this movie are fucking brutal. So, um, yeah, definitely check it out. Day of the Dead. Um, my next review will be on Land of the Dead. Thanks.